All right, traders, welcome to your end of day market recap. This is Christian Farmhertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Thursday, May 26th. So we've got one more day of the week. We've got one more day of the month as well. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. You can read the full risk disclaimer right here. Theme of the day, again, for a second day and stronger than yesterday. Very strong market breadth, good participation. We certainly discussed this yesterday that we are seeing this nicey bull crossover, right, as confirmation, more advancing names versus declining. That is a change in tone, something that we talked about last week. We also talked about the small caps, which have been showing some relative strength. So I would love to see continuation from the small caps and leadership. But for now, again, what I've been saying anytime that we rally since we've been in downtrends is that one day is not a trend. And you just kind of have to take it with a grain of salt that, this is where we are in terms of the indices and most areas of the market, not all, but most are seeing a bear market rally, right? And so there's strategic ways to kind of play bear market rallies, right? And that's basically what we have so far, right? Given again that one day is not a trend. Sometimes I do this at the end of the videos. I'm going to do this in the beginning of the videos. If you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, right, you can try it out. You can check it out for a month, right? There's no obligation. You do have to sign up for a month, but you can cancel at any time. You go right here to the pinned tweet, or you can go to tribecatradegroup.com and check out everything that we do. I think that if you're not a member and you're just watching these videos at the end of the day, you're just not getting the full picture about what we kind of do day by day. For example, we've been talking about, I've been sending up morning notes, talking about observations that we're seeing, and such as this bull crossover that we saw, and why I've been adding risk this week, and also selling into strength, right? Selling into strength. We'll go over all of my trades as usual, but a couple other things too, as and here's my guidance at 2:30. I took some trades off just because we've got this big inflation report tomorrow, right? It's called the PCE deflator, right? I know the media doesn't pick up on it, or media is the financial media can help in a lot of ways, just like Twitter. But a lot of times it can be a bit negative too, right? Everybody looks at that CPI report, right? And the Fed does as well. But they also, the Fed has stated this many times that that they also look at this PCE deflator report, which comes in tomorrow. Also, which makes things complicated tomorrow too, right? Is that it's month end, right? So you might see some type of end of month rebalancing, right? And it's going to be a 3-day weekend as well. So again, it just kind of complicates things a bit for tomorrow, and maybe you get more volatility. If you like these intraday volatility moves, then you might get more of that tomorrow, right? But here's the number for tomorrow. They're expecting a low number, I think, for the month change, just like we saw for the CPI a couple of weeks back, 0.2. Right? I don't know why that they're only looking for 0.2. They're setting the bar really low for inflation to jump over, but we'll see. And then, of course, the year over year, that's the headline number, which will come in. The core month is a little bit, will be a little bit higher. So that's for tomorrow. Let's go over, some of the things that happened today. But one of the things I thought that this was interesting, Carl, so talking about some good things that come out of financial media. So this is some color, I guess, from one of the JP Morgan institutional trading, I would assume institutional trading desk. Long only demand across the desk today, aggressive demand this AM in NVIDIA. So they, institutions really went after NVIDIA this morning on the dip. We were also seeing, so that was attractive to them yesterday. We are also seeing a lot of short covering, right? Definitely too, in some of the beaten up areas of the market. As bad as the market has felt, the SPX is now 6.4% from the 520 lows. A bunch of coiled springs out there, right? And I think that's the story with a lot of names that you look across a group like growth or tech, or could be, retail, right? Everything has gotten sold off. So not all of these companies deserve to get, sold off like they have. And that's why in my opinion, that's why you're seeing, some of those areas of the market come back. I thought there's a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of interesting things that we go over every day that's been going on in the market. It is not a dull, sleepy market, right? There's a lot of things to kind of get your arms around. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, and we talked about this pre-market, right? Bitcoin was down pretty decently today, right? It came back. It's kind of holding on, right? So again, we're starting with something a little bit different in today's video. Ethereum did not manage to come back, and that's kind of looking like a bear pennant. It looked like a break of that, but there is some support back here. But what have we seen? When the cryptos are down, right? Usually growth stocks don't particularly rally, but you look at it on something else, right? Look at what HYG has been doing, right? The high yield bond ETF. Now that's risk on, right? So you've got various different you've got various different factors, various different market winds going, WINDS, in case you can't hear me properly. But you've got a lot of different things going on in this market, so it's not just one thing, right? I had a question earlier today, which I thought was a very good question, right? Given that the market rallied, and where's our numbers for today? SPY was up 2%, Qs were up 2.8%. IWM, so it's actually, IWM just barely outperformed SPY, and the Qs actually were the biggest outperformer for the day. Microcaps were also up 2%. But the question that I received earlier was, why is the VIX not down more? Well, a couple things, right? Number one, the market's still moving fast, right? The volatility can come to the upside or to the downside. Generally, you really shouldn't see the VIX go up when the market is up. That's a bearish divergence, right? We've been talking about bullish divergences that we've seen with the VIX not really, the VIX has not been rising as much while the market was going down, right? That was a bullish divergence. But it's tough to kind of explain every little one of these things that's going on in the market. And the point that I'm trying to make with this is, you have to look at multiple things, and even so, you're still not going to be able to predict what this market does on a day-to-day basis, right? You could look at option gamma, right, and read a whole bunch of reports about how option strikes are and negative, positive gamma, but that doesn't cover what if there's going to be buying in stocks, right? For example, that's not going to come up in a gamma report, right? That stock traders, institutions were busy buying stock today. So, again, you kind of have to take each one of these things, and there's some great analysis out there. I'm not saying that there's not. I'm just saying that you could you could do your research, and that should help you formulate an opinion. But there's not going to be one thing, in my opinion, that's going to say, okay, that's happening here, so tomorrow that's what the market does, right? You have to have a little bit of market feel as well, right? So anyway, I thought that this has been very interesting, this move. I meant to talk about it in yesterday's video and forgot to, right? Another thing too, and then when you look at credit spreads, right? Because it's important, right? When you're looking at fixed income products, to note what they're doing in relation to treasuries, right? Someone very smart in fixed income told me that, right? Make sure that you're not just looking at, it's different than equities, right? There's obviously interest rates that move, based on what treasuries are doing. So this again is credit spreads. We're looking at IEI over HYG. The reason why we're using IEI is because it's the same, it's very close to the duration in HYG, but look at credit spreads collapse, right? So remember, like, if you're not familiar with looking at this, when credit spreads go up like this, and you could see what happened obviously in March of 2020, right? There's a lot of risk in the system, right? This is basically telling you that for whatever reason, and you could formulate your own reasons, but again, price is the most important thing, right? Because we don't always have all the information out there. Price has the information, right? So the fact that the credit spreads collapse back to the downside kind of makes you think that all these things that we've been hearing about, the world is going to end, and it's going to be 2008 again, right? All of these things, these narratives that you've been hearing on financial Twitter and the media, maybe that's not the case, right? And there's a lot of bias, right? Because I traded through that time as I was an institutional trader, and I have that in the back of my mind, right? That sometimes we see things, right? And bear markets, and they remind you of situations that you've been in previously. But I'll tell you, each one of these bear markets or deep corrections, they happen for many times they happen for different reasons, right? And they're not all exactly the same. So am I saying that we're completely out of the woods? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that there's a decent amount of things that are happening in the marketplace. Now, again, I'm not seeing, not everything is flashing, positive. There's still a lot of things that we have to worry about, right? But again, we try to formulate an overall process. We try to be objective, and we try to adjust, right, to different things, right? I mention this all the time. Like yesterday's video, I was talking about NVIDIA, and I'm like, hey, I'm not ready to buy that yet. I think there's an 80% rule that could mean that NVIDIA goes lower. So, I didn't get that one today, but I did a lot of other positive things today. So, that's another thing too. You're just not going to be perfect. And again, the reason why I'm going over this in tonight's video is because this market is moving so fast, and there's so many different things going on that you have to be able to roll with the punches and understand that you're going to be wrong a lot in this market. You just don't want to stay wrong. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things. All right, let's talk about some of my trades for the day, and then I'll talk about some of the other ones that I thought were interesting too. But LNTH, I don't know why it was bid up pre-market, but I took advantage of it, right? There wasn't any major news. So, I took this trade off, or I took a target, and then I put it back on. I put the target back on, right? This is a name. And the reason why I'm pointing out this one too is that was nice to be able to get that target, but this stock is trending up. So this is an area, right? We hear that buy the dip mentality. I do not want to be buying the dip in stocks that are downtrending, right? That are continuing to make new lows, right? And I don't care that much that they're bouncing in downtrends. That's fine, but I want to be buying the dips in uptrends, right? In stocks that are strong. So I sell, you sell the rip, and then if it dips a little bit, and it did dip into 64, 65, and I bought some back, right? And I'll do that trade over and over and over, right? Until the stock's not trending anymore, right? And I hate to tell you, because I know some people think that they can predict, but no one knows when a trend is going to be over. We may get some signals along the way, but you can't predict, when a trend is going to is going to end. No one knows how long a trend is going to last. I hate to break it to people. Coin, I actually, when I saw Bitcoin down, I thought, hey, this would be a good starter position to put on, right on the open. That didn't work, and I had to cover that one for a loss. All right. So again, that was an idea. Saw Bitcoin, Ethereum down. And again, I only go like on the open, I'm only going into starters, but how to take that one off. ATKR, I was looking for something in this group today. I had a lot of alerts go off. This was one of the first ones that went off. This worked well. I did take the trade off just because I just don't need to carry a lot of excess risk into tomorrow. I'll be watching this one. Sometimes I do take these trades off a little bit too early. You do have a nice break of this this trend line here, but there's other names within this group that I also like. Nucor, which I took off yesterday, but look at the, whoops, that's the wrong. That's a downtrend. Nucor gets back above the 20-day moving average, right? This is a name that we talked about a couple times. I actually took this trade off, put it back on in the beginning of this week, but right into some very nice support, right? And if you look at the overall group, metals and mining, look at the weekly chart, look at where this kind of checked back into, right? Right back into this breakout level, right? Retest of the breakout level. Looks pretty damn good to me. All right, so I like this group a lot. The Chinese internet names, right, and China names, right? You had a couple, so maybe Baidu, Baba had good earnings, right? So maybe this can get above the 50-day moving average. Not yet, almost. All right, so I started looking for names. PDD is going to be a name that reports tomorrow. That should be an interesting name. Again, not over the 50-day. It actually did go over the 50-day moving average. Let's see if the move's for real this time. Right, that's PDD. Here's Baidu. A couple names of interest in this group, and I took this one. Right, I like the solar names. They've been showing some decent strength, so I'm long this one, even though it's still below the 50-day moving average. JKS is another one too that looks pretty darn good. This is Jinko Solar. I think I tweeted that one out the other day. And then NTES is another one that has gotten, trending up and above the trend line. I also like the weekly chart in this one. Right, not bad. Back inside value and above this this trend line. All right, ALB was probably the trade of my day. Here's what the ALB, the lithium names have just been on fire. I heard a report that that the demand is like ridiculously high right now for the lithium names, and I like when you're seeing the strength in multiple names. This SQM, talk about just on fire, right? And I still don't see too many people talking about this name, but look at what it did on earnings, right? It ran into the earnings report and it just kept going. It's barely even consolidated there for a couple days. And then right up from 101 and 107. So this looks very good too. The only thing that I didn't remember, they report. So these are the things to kind of take note of, right? They reported earnings back in here, good earnings, right? This was back on 5/5. They just came out 2 days ago and said that they're increasing their guidance again, right? So is that bearish? Is that something I want to fade? No. So this was a nice trade. Now it did take out this VPOC and it did a little bit of, so I was watching what it did here. I took this out and a little bit of a fade. That's what happens when you hit one of these virgin point of controls. Remember, it's a high area of volume that price is not revisited, right? And once it does, sometimes you do see these fades. But I thought it was just kind of cute that it was sitting back here. So no option activity or anything like that. I had an alert go off. Again, alerts definitely saved me, but look at the price action in this thing. So you could see that I took multiple targets in this thing and I'm still holding some. All right, CCJ was a setup that we discussed, I think 2 days ago. I forget if it was yesterday or made a nice move. Tracking now, getting back above a rising 200-day moving average. I thought it was a worthwhile trade. You're going to have some overhead resistance right around 25.57, right, which may be where I might be looking to either take the trade off or probably take another portion of the trade and maybe see if we can get 26.44 in that one. By the way, nice move. Was looking at this 1 hour chart in crude, right? It did break through this 111.67 level. That was something that we went over pre-market. Right, and it's actually right back to this previous high that we saw back on 517. All right, so good price action and the energy names just on absolute fire at this point. SLB is the one that I've been holding. Worked really well, but there's so many names. CTRA had another nice day. Devon had a nice day. Nice day. And Terra Resources did take out another Virgin point of control, so I would probably be selling in, taking some profits into that, and then waiting for a little bit of consolidation. But whew, such a strong group, and again, you could go through name after name. Chevron made a new high today. COP, which is kind of my new favorite within the really big one companies. And Exxon was also out to new highs today too. Not the biggest performer for the day, but I mean, these things have just been killer, on fire. All right, and the semis, I went into a trade earlier. I just decided that this isn't a downtrend, and I'm sticking to my rules. One of my rules right now is that I can day trade names in downtrends, but I'm not putting on very many swing trades in names that are in downtrends. I'll wait for them, the price action, to prove it to me. All right, guys, very, very nice day, very nice week altogether. Really has been a very interesting, and like I said in the beginning of this video, something different going on every single day. I think, bottom line is, when the markets react like this and have such a big day, I am a net seller into this, but I still definitely have exposure on, no doubt about it, because we are in a bullish crossover in the McClellan summation index, right? So there's a couple things where there's going to be a little bit of resistance here. We're into the 20-day moving average, so some short-term resistance. And yes, it'll be interesting to see if we can get above the short-term resistance. Now, do I want to go and fade this just because we've had an up move and a downtrend? No, because we're seeing a breadth expansion, right? And again, my trading may be a little bit different than yours, but if we're seeing an expansion of breadth, I'm going to go, I'm going to follow through with that. IWM, next spot that this can maybe get to is 185, right? But it's clearly pausing at last week's high, but I would watch out for that, 185, because I don't think that you really have anything majorly, and that would get you right back into here. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.